to VC the Venture Capital TV from LATOKEN. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the Regional Director of LATOKEN based here in Singapore, and I host VC Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. Singapore. Today, we're going to discuss about identity management, trends, challenges, use cases, use of technology to address the issues around identity management as well. So today I'll be joined by speakers who have been on the panel before. I have Tushar from India, Gary Fowler who's just based in Florida right now, and Telly, who is joining us back after the new year. I would like to say welcome back on VCTV 2021. Happy New Year, all of you. And I'm very excited to host this panel today. This topic is very important considering we are all working remotely. We are all using our gadgets on the internet. And and we've seen a lot of issues that we faced in last year in terms of identity theft, in terms of cyber attacks, hacking, and so many other issues around security, cyber security as well. So yes, before I jump into introducing my speakers, I would like to take a step back and start with a few words about the topic. A rise in security breaches due to abuse of access has put the spotlight on identity and access management. So how might artificial intelligence, AI, gonna shape the future? IAM solutions, which is identity and access management solutions, enable our network or a system to authenticate identity of a user against a set of prescribed credentials. As we know, we all use username passwords for everything, starting from the computer, to the phone, anything that you touch on the internet requires a username password. So this is very critical. This is a very critical topic. Today we're going to discuss. Hence, I would like to go a little bit deeper, dived deeper into the topic with insights coming from our speakers. George has just joined us as well. Hi, George. Welcome back on VCTV and Happy New Year to you as well. I'm going to start with Telly today. Telly, Happy New Year. How are you today? How are you and how are things with you? Telly, you're on mute.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me back. Happy New Year to everyone. So yeah, my name is Telly Onu and I live in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm actually the head of governance and execution for the Bantu blockchain. So the new year was really great because in Christmas, just before Christmas, we kind of launched our blockchain and we went on the mainnet. So it's been kind of exciting. And when it comes to your questions with regards to digital identity, it's really fundamental because digital identity, you can say, is that bridge that provides access to either, if it's from a government's lens, to citizens, to businesses, to actually participate in the digital economy. Identity is really, I would say, something that is fundamentally critical to begin to even discuss having any sort of e-service. So that's where I see that. But I will speak later.
Yes. Yes, we're gonna go deep down into the trends, into the challenges, into the solutions and use cases after the introductions of all our speakers. Next, I have Gary Fowler. Hi, Gary. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. How are you today?
I am good as well. I'm very excited to know because artificial intelligence, besides others, is your strong point, besides quantum computing, which I don't understand yet. I'm trying to understand. But artificial intelligence is something very much close to my heart. I really want to know ins and outs of artificial intelligence, and you're the right person to share the insights today.
Sunny is close to my heart too.
Okay. I meant my day and the session and rest of the week, I
It's
guess.
funny
Gary,
because
thank
I
you so
had
much.
somebody write me a note and they said, is it artificial intelligence or real intelligence? And I thought, well, that is the question, isn't it?
Yes.
So, yeah, my name's Gary Fowler. It's great to be here. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which is sold for 1.35 billion. And also I am the co-founder of Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that we formed about 5 years ago with a billionaire from Russia originally, David Yang, who lives in Silicon Valley. So I'm Silicon Valley based. I am the CEO, president, co-founder of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, an AI venture studio that curates companies from around the world and uses Silicon Valley as a port. So love artificial intelligence, write a lot. I just published a couple of articles on quantum. I guess I'm up to 109 articles now.
Oh, it was 7 yesterday. Wow.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
published 2 more articles. One
oh,
in Forbes
wow.
and I just wrote another.
Congratulations.
I'm
Awesome.
writing a lot about the quantum network now. So just interesting. And I'm writing a couple books, that kind of stuff. So I'm just a
Fantastic,
country
Gary.
boy, I'm just a country boy. All you people here are a lot smarter than me. I'm just a country boy just listening. Thank you, Sonny.
Okay. Thank you, Gary, for that introduction. Next, I have Tushar. Tushar, welcome back and Happy New Year. How are you today? Tushar, you're on mute.
Thank you for having me back, Sunny, and wish you a very happy new year as well. I'll introduce myself. I run consultancy ventures and Saffron First. Saffron First is an angel network and a fund, and we invest across technology companies in health tech, agri tech, food tech, and also AI ML, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's an association of 38 high net worth individuals. Uh, at Consultancy Ventures, we help across fundraising, mergers and acquisitions, and consulting, management consulting to companies. My own personal background has been with the private equity practice at Deloitte and Touche, with India's largest venture capital fund called Brand Capital, which is of Times of India Group, and also raised $2.5 billion of debt for the Russian company Systema's India unit, MTS India, and was CFO with the company owned by the Guggenheim Partners, the American fund. So happy to be here and be talking about this very important topic today.
Thank you, Tushar, for that introduction. I'm going to talk about biometrics from you, the insights from you, from an India perspective as well, very specific to India. Thank you, Tushar.
Sure. Thank you.
Last
Thank
but
you.
not least, George, hi, welcome back on VCTV. How are we doing today?
Everything is great. My name is George Sebastião. I've been in the IT industry for about 35 years. So I've seen the entire revolution progress. I manage several organizations across the Middle East and some extend up to Africa as well, all in the high-tech space. Some have to do with blockchain, but a few also have to do with artificial intelligence. And being in IT for this number of years, obviously one of the key points about doing any kind of business on the systems that we've put in place is identity management, whether that identity management happens at the national level or it happens inside a browser or it happens inside an application. And I think although we have lots of technologies that help solve this problem, we still have not managed to solve it 100%. And that's why we still have daily hacks. That's why we still have daily losses of funds and so on. So yes, the technology is there, but I think there's still a big gap between the usability of the technology and the end user that is left using this technology.
All right, sure. Great start, great opening introduction, George, and welcome back on PCTV. So yes, let's start with the trends in 2020. What happened in 2020? I'm going to start with Gary today. Gary's goes last all the time on my session, but today Gary's going to go first. Gary,
Sure.
let's start with opening remarks about this topic today. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is 2020 was a challenging year, not just for COVID, but facial recognition. As many of us are aware, there have been some challenges. San Francisco was one of the first cities in the US to ban facial recognition because of bias, racial bias. So, there are a lot of challenges that we have. It's not just a given. And as we look forward at the same time, on the other end of the coin, we've got our Samsung and our iPhones that have facial recognition that allow us to log in. So, on one side, we need it. On the other side, we've got to tweak the system to make sure that it's fair and just and right. So, those kind of challenges have taken place. However, at the same time, the artificial intelligence, according to NIST, the NIST rating ranks the level of the algorithm for the facial recognition. So we keep curating the facial recognition. The challenge that we have is also now we can spoof it. So if we have facial recognition, there are ways to be able to spoof it, to fake that person. So we have, the problem in with all the data that we have out there today is how do we keep ourselves safe? How do we assure that we are that person, whether it's online bank account, whether it's registering for some type of a service or product, whether it's, as we go on our iPhones and try to get into certain websites, what does it use? It's using facial recognition, and it opens all our passwords up. So last year was a challenging year where we went down through and we had to really reevaluate. Companies like Microsoft, et cetera, that have really started to ban facial recognition until we figure out how to be able to level the playing field to make it fair. So what we've done and what we've been looking for are companies that are really on the cutting edge of that can use it in all kinds of different ways for good things and not for bad. The other side of it is, in terms of the facial recognition, is how can we've stored this information in a centralized database. How can we decentralize it to make it safer for each and every one of us? So it was an interesting year, but it brought up a lot of questions and create a lot of controversy. I mean, companies like Intel, for instance, have really moved away from facial recognition until we figure it out. So that's where it is. But I'm very excited about it because it is one of the ways to make sure you are who you are, and you feel much more secure. Is it the answer? The complete answer? No. But if you start using thumbprints, you start using facial recognition, and other ways of verifying two-step approaches, at least it's closer. But remember, the hackers are always out there trying to figure out how to break the system.
Absolutely.
So it always, in the history of humankind, has always gone down through as we come up with a solution, they hack it to figure it out, come up with a solution and hack it. So it's a never-ending battle.
Yeah, right. It's a never-ending battle because hackers would be always there to beat us whenever we have a new solution. Thank you so much, Gary, for those opening remarks. Talking about decentralization, my next speaker is going to talk about blockchain and digital identity. Kelly, over to you, please.
Thanks, Sunny. I'll start with the digital identity because we already started looking at what the issues are with facial recognition. At the end of the day, facial recognition is part of that person's identity. So I would say what we saw 2020 and moving into 2021 is going to be, the bigger trend I would say is really the rise of regulatory technology. As we say, we're living in a world where you have good actors and bad actors. And unfortunately, there are so many bad actors that companies, enterprises need to identify people. So if you're trying to access a service, especially if you're accessing a service cross-border, right, in a digital space, we have to authenticate who you are, So that question, are you who you say you are, is part of that identity. So identity provides access to the digital economy.
Yeah.
But where the challenges are is where, obviously if you using centralized systems to store these digital identities, and those are accessed, right, illegally, um, you're then putting other people at risk, and this is where the theft and identity theft comes in. So that is a challenge, right? And there's still, I mean, there are then opportunities where you have companies who can design systems to try and mitigate that. Uh, a whole business around identity theft. But to be honest, you don't even want to get to the point where your identity is being stolen. So one of the trends is obviously leveraging identity in a more decentralized manner. You're already starting to see it happen from a regulatory perspective, like the EU GDPR regulation really looks at privacy, data privacy, and privacy protection. So that already has been on an increase. And as a consequence, you're starting to see other countries and jurisdictions put certain parameters in place in terms of strengthening their privacy acts. Then on a technological perspective, obviously we're starting to see the value of decentralized technologies like blockchain being able to facilitate that mechanism in terms of, on the one hand, yes, you have a public ledger where things are locked and publicized, but and also there are other attendant technologies you can use to facilitate, that pseudonymous type of engagement. So this for sure is a way of protecting people, but it also means that individuals have to be more responsible. And this is where the challenge happens, right?
Yeah.
Where you will still have parts of society, parts of an economy that probably needs assistance in terms of adoption and transformation. So this is where I think there's a fine line between using centralized and decentralized systems, because for it to be 100% decentralized, you have to know what you're doing. You need to be, have that personal responsibility. So that's definitely the trend we're seeing. And obviously, as we are in 2021, the
Yeah.
marketplace, and if you're looking at what's happening in the digital economy,
Yeah.
and especially around, blockchain, Bitcoin, with what's happening now, obviously more institutional investment is flowing in through there. So obviously, data privacy is going to be even more prominent. They even have newer protocols that people are starting to use that enhance privacy, especially if you are a corporation. When you're looking at adoption of these public blockchains, you also want to have adopted in a way that you can also secure your data, your information. So identity is definitely important to provide access. Identity is important for inclusion. So if you're looking at developing countries, Bangladesh, countries in Africa, and so on, there are certain portions of the population that without an identity, they cannot get access to a lot of even the basic services like housing. So identity is critical for sure. How we govern it, how we manage it is pretty much what's going to occupy our space in the next, for the next
Yeah.
couple of years. Because there's also a tension between identity and security, obviously.
Yes, of
Yep.
course, there is always, Kelly. Thank you so much for sharing those great insights. And obviously, this is a big challenge and opportunity for startups in the space as well, as I see it. You rightly mentioned, like with the institutional money flowing into Bitcoin and blockchain. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is blockchain. A lot of attention into data protection and data privacy, as you rightly said. Thank you so much, Kelly. Next, I have Tushar to share his opening remarks about this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny. Sunny, I would first like to give the macro picture. Mark Anderson said once, software is eating the world. And now what is happening is that AI is eating software. There are some macro trends which are there and which first trend is that we have the FANGs, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix. They are all valued at billions and trillions of dollars. So the money is with technology. The march of technology has been on since the dot-com bust, since 2008 Lehman crisis, and now COVID. So technology is marching towards our homes, and that is a fact which can't be done away with. Look at some other aspects. The computing power of AI chipsets has increased, and the amount of training data for data algorithms is exploding with the advent of data lakes and IoT world. Large technological bottlenecks, such as vanishing gradients in a graph, they have been solved, increasing the accuracy and applicability of existing algorithms. And there is this decrease in cost of cloud storage and computing, distributive collaborative working. So all these are macro factors which is resulting in explosion of AI, and AI is eating software. And uh, this fact cannot be challenged by players who set up the legal system like governments or other bodies which are very slow to adopt to technology. Now, today, when you start using a smartphone, you download an app, it first asks you for a permission and it gives you an agreement. By instinct, everyone presses OK. So your
Yeah.
consent is there for them to analyze your data and use it to give you targeted business. So, from a legal perspective, there is no problem over there. The problem comes when the same data, the same power is used by the wrong agencies, as Gary said. And there are a number of institutional bodies, governments out there who would rather use that data in the wrong way. So this is where blockchain comes in, and the power of distributed data storage comes in, and the security of blockchain comes in, and hence this whole topic becomes very important.
Yeah, thank you, Tushar. I'm a little bit curious about just the statement that you made or give away to our audience. Maybe some of the audience may have this question in their mind as well. When you said AI is eating into software, I thought artificial intelligence is a software in itself. What does that mean exactly?
So earlier, if a corporate had to digitize their system, they had to buy software, have data centers. Nowadays, everything resides on cloud, and the outcome of that software, which is AI driven, is the service which you are getting from the companies, and everything has moved on to a cloud. So companies are selling that particular output or service, and not the particular software. So this is what I meant by the fact that AI is eating software.
Oh, it's like a software as a service, or like a utility-based model.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tushar. Next, I have George. George, your opening remarks for the show today on the topic.
Well, actually, there's, I think, three important elements that we have discussed so far with the audience here. The first one is obviously identity management. There's many ways to do identity management, but definitely biometrics is one of those that enhances the quality and the accuracy of identity management. Many aspects can help. One is obviously what we sometimes call multimodal biometrics, where we use a combination of biometrics, face recognition, skin texture as two examples of biometrics that have been combined together to achieve greater accuracy. We have fingerprint, which has been around with us for many, many years. But we have the birth of a whole new generation of biometrics that was not available before. And those biometrics are actually driven by data more than just by a simple factor of what we are. They're driven by our behavior. So today, for example, the way we type in a keyboard, the way we type in a mobile phone, can actually be used as the biometric feature to identify ourselves. And it can be used with a high degree of accuracy. So that really means that there's a whole new generation of biometrics that is being birthed or born as the low cost availability of artificial intelligence capabilities. So today we have the capability with things like edge computing move much closer to the user the processing of that biometric. We can do it on a mobile phone. We can actually do it on a CCTV camera. So today we have CCTV cameras that is able to do identity management because they have the power at the chip level to do the recognition of the face without necessarily transporting all the data back to the data center. The second element has to do with blockchain. One of the biggest issues associated even with biometrics, especially things like either fingerprint or face recognition, is that one can steal the details of these biometrics and can impersonate the person. We can impersonate the person when we identify ourselves to a phone or to a system, even the finger. But the systems evolve and they become more sophisticated by measuring extra parameters. So for example, today when we do fingerprint recognition, we can use 3D biometrics, or we can even use temperature to make sure it's a real finger touching the biometric reader rather than a fake one. So we can improve the quality of the identity management associated with biometrics. But blockchain brings something unique that was not there before. And this is the capability of decentralizing the identity management. So by having the identity management not managed by one single authority, but distributed over a large number of computers, we can achieve a higher degree of security and a higher degree of protection, because that information cannot not as easily be hacked. Could it still be hacked in the future? Yes. Gary discussed quantum computing, and we argued a few times before about it. But the algorithms that today prevent and kind of protect blockchain will have to be improved in the future in their capacities as the computing power of quantum computer gives upon us. And the latter point is the value of AI. I think AI has got a lot of value to bring to our space in many aspects. One is obviously in the identity management, but beyond that, I think AI is what's driving the whole new generation of computing. However, AI is dependent on 2 or 3 important aspects. One important aspect is the quality of the data. So that really means if we have an AI camera that is trying to do identity management, but the lighting or the resolution is not of good quality, the AI is not going to provide very much help, because the quality of the accuracy of the AI is not going to be as good as it should be. So that really applies. The AI in the future is all going to help us if we have the capability of adding additional trust and additional quality to the data that we provide the AI. And I do believe a little bit what Tushar has said, in the sense that today's companies are driven by data, and that really means that instead of having large numbers of programmers developing software, the real value of the company is extracted from the data they generate and the trends associated with that data, whether that data happens to be for identity management or otherwise. That's why companies today, like for example, Tesla as a simple example, most people will think, oh, Tesla is a car company. No,
Yeah.
Tesla is actually a data company, because Tesla is extracting various or volumes amounts of data from the car, and it's actually using that data to generate value in its ecosystem, whether that data improves the way you charge your car or where you're going to position the chargers across various distributed geographic locations. Without that data, that level of intelligence and the service that it gives to the customer is never going to be at the same level of accuracy. So therefore, artificial intelligence combined with good quality of data is going to enables us to create new generation of corporations much more powerful than the ones that we have seen to date.
Right. Fantastic. Great points. Artificial intelligence, data, blockchain, analytics, security. I think it covers the whole parameter when you talk about identity management or digital identity. A great, good insights today from all the speakers. Next, I would like to move to Gary. So, Gary, how do we see startups in this space, and what are the challenges they are facing, and how they are navigating to counter these challenges? So you can share some successful use cases from your portfolio and share some insights to the audience and other speakers. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so the fundamental challenge today is COVID and the pandemic. So that's the big challenge. So if I'm in Africa, I'm in St. Kitts, I'm in Australia or Europe, how can I go global? What happens? So there's really three phases. One is, we're looking for product market fit, and I call it the acceleration, startup 1.0. Two is regional dominance. Well, with COVID, it's a little bit more difficult, but that still could happen. But the third is, how do I go global? How do I become that unicorn? So the challenge today is, because here we are in a digitally transformed world, a lot of going global is based on trust. Who you know, have you been successful, right? Do they trust you? Because you're not going to give $10 million to somebody you don't know. It's just, it doesn't happen. So typically in Silicon Valley, which is where I'm from, normally I'm from, in fact, I haven't seen my car since March of last year. Can you imagine? I haven't been at my place since March of last year. It's in the garage. I haven't
When are you
seen
going back? When are you going back
I
to
don't
Silicon
know. I
Valley?
mean, I keep planning like every 2 weeks. I feel like the check's in the mail. It's crazy. So I don't know. The COVID's getting worse right now in California. So that's why I'm here in Florida. But, the challenge is, how do we go global? And this thing, it had been a challenge before, but it's really difficult now because here we are. I just talked to actually was with Australia yesterday. And the day before that was some African startups in AI, facial recognition. How did they come out? So they have a great company. They've dominated their particular country or their region. How do we go to the next levels? And that's what the biggest challenge that I find today is. It's not that the companies don't exist. It's how do we go to the next levels and build that trust that is critically important. It's kind of, this when you take a company global. I mean, we did so Click Software was from Haifa, Israel, came over to Campbell, California. I changed the name of the company to Click Software from IET. I was a senior vice president of marketing and biz dev. We came up with a family of products, did a NASDAQ IPO, and the company sold to Salesforce for over $1 billion, right? Years later. So, but the key is, how do you take that quantum leap forward today? And it's not so easy. There are ways to do it. And VCTV, having the platform, the incredible platform that VCTV has, is one of the first steps forward for that, right? Let one out. But that's door number one. Door number two is, coming up with, okay, so if you rate facial recognition, you're rated by NIST rating, right? How good are your algorithms? There's actually a group in the US called NIST, and it's used worldwide, but that's how you get it rated. So when you get on that scale, it basically gives you a stamp of approval that you're the best. So what I suggest for those startups is make sure that your NIST rating's right. The other thing is, when you're dealing with facial recognition, you're dealing many times with very secure situations. You're dealing with governments, right? You're dealing with security in some way, shape, or form. Again, trust. So what I suggest for those companies, you got to make sure you have trusted partners that can make sure that if they're going to help you market your service in whatever location you're in, whether you're in Europe, US, Singapore, Africa, you have some trusted partner that has those kind of connections, because it's going to be critically important to give you the credibility, because you're talking about extremely sensitive data. The last thing you want to do is have somebody in a smart city application or retail application that does not have that trusted network, and you've got very sensitive data. You don't want to have that happen. You got to make sure that that partner is trusted, can really, vet you, put the stamp of approval on you to help you get that product or service out. So it's important. Is it hot? Yes. Is it controversial? Yes. Do we need it? Yes. So it's like
Hot,
it's
controversial,
three-ring
and we need
circus, we need it. It's not going to be easy, but guess what? The people that succeed are going to win.
Right. So, Gary, just want to reiterate on what Gary said. Go global with VCTV. Thank
Absolutely. I
you.
mean, kids, think about how else could you do it today?
Ab-
Really? I mean,
Absolutely.
I remember when we got, I started on this VCTV was February of last year, almost a year. But the situation is, it's very difficult. Traditionally in Silicon Valley, if you're raising money, and I've done this many, many times, not just in Silicon Valley, in Europe, in US, in Russia, China. So what do? You go out to lunch and you talk. Every time I've done that, every time. And the rule in Silicon Valley is, you got to be 30 to 35 minutes away from where the VC is in Sando Road, because that's as far as they'll drive, right? It's just one of the
Right.
rules. Maybe it's 45 minutes in some cases, but generally that's the rule. So you would meet them at Hobie's in Palo Alto on El Camino Real. That's the place where deals are cut. You would meet the person for breakfast or lunch, talk about it. They get to know you. They come over, meet your team, and that's basically how you raise money, right? And I've raised,
Absolutely. Thank
hundreds of
you.
millions of dollars that way.
Absolutely. Zoom all the way. No more traveling, no more wasting time. Thank you, Gary, for those insights. Tushar, just want to highlight a very interesting topic about use of biometrics and artificial intelligence by the Indian government and how it benefited the millions and the billions of people we have in India. Tushar, yeah, please go ahead and share those insights with our audience.
Yeah, this is a very interesting case study. So the Indian government identified that the whole population needs to have a single card in which biometrics are stored. So it gave approval to Aadhaar card. So now we have Aadhaar cards for everyone out here. Secondly, it identified the smartphone or a feature phone as a delivery vehicle. And thirdly, it knew that everyone needs to have a bank account. So what is happening is that the government, because of a lot of poor people over here, it gives subsidies to on fertilizers, on food, a lot of subsidies to the poor people.
Yeah.
They were not reaching the beneficiaries in the right manner, and there were pilferages, and so it used this trinity. It calls it the jam trinity. It's a Jan Dhan account, which means a zero balance bank account, Aadhaar, which is a biometric card, and a mobile phone. It opened zero balance bank accounts for 400 million people. That's within a span of 3 years. And now all the subsidies are being sent to the poor people using Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile, the Jam Trinity. And the efficiency of the system is such that the government estimates it's saving almost 20 to 25 billion dollars a year on just the subsidies alone. And this is the I remember I had read Oppenheimer, the guy who created the first nuclear device and the first nuclear test which happened in the US. Post the explosion of that nuclear device, Oppenheimer had remarked from a Hindu epic, Upanishad. He had said, "And I became death, slayer of the worlds." So he knew that this is a kind of technology which is coming into human hands, and it has great potential for destruction. So just as these technologies have great potential for destruction, if it is used in the right way, like the Indian government has used in the last 7 years, it can cause great benefit and to a huge population across the country.
Wow, that's such a great use case and story to share with all our audience over here and the speakers. Government embracing AI and biometrics, so that's good. Next, thank you, Tushar, for sharing those insights. Really great insights over there and great example of the use of technology in the space.
Right.
Telly, let's talk about some successful use cases from you, please.
Okay, well, just like the use case for India, obviously using a central, what I call an interoperable identity. You can look at Estonia. Estonia did the same thing when they decided to become, a digital economy and city. They actually created, that's the first thing they did, was create an interoperable identity, which is linked even to their banking system. So very similar to India. Everything is connected, everything is linked, it's interoperable. You use it to access every single service of the government. And this is really key as a best practice if you really want to foster a kind of adoption and so on. I think in the case of India, what's unique is that, it's also tied with also mobile wallets, so that they can actually open bank accounts for people who are underserved and don't have access. And it's a much easier mechanism to leverage people who are maybe just afraid of the traditional banking system. So that's a great use case. Other use cases that, of course, we see it being used. I mean, there's the whole issue of, as Gary said, you have to know who you know, even if whether you're fundraising or whatever. So KYC, KYE, KYB, whatever KY, it's know your, and the identity allows them to kind of authenticated identity allows them to do that. So for whether it's customer onboarding, it's becoming more prevalent. So that's really practical use case for identity. And as what Jorge and George had mentioned, is in the area of even identity management and access and control. From a security standpoint, cybersecurity, you do know that when it comes to companies and cybersecurity threats, the biggest threats are the people that work within the company. So access and control becomes a very, very vital thing. And having that connection with managing the identity management is fundamental. So practical use cases is connecting identity with access control so that you know who access what file, who access what stuff. I mean, it's like Big Brother, but let's be honest. If you have an enterprise, you've invested so much money, you're like Gary, he has all these fantastic innovations. The last thing you want is for someone to try and steal your identity, steal your IP, yeah? And so securing that is also important. So these are some of the practical use cases. So
Fantastic.
inclusion,
Yeah,
corporate, it's across the board.
absolutely.
Sunny,
Inclusion.
Sunny, can I just add here? Apart from this Jam Trinity, they also created UPI, which is United Payments Interface. This is using money transfer through a single ID. And to tell you the success of this, there have been $45 billion worth of transactions this year. Last year it was $20 billion, and number of transactions have grown 70% to more than 20 billion transactions every year through UPI. So this is again a case of a digital transformation, which in a positive way.
So is it UPI is an API to the Aadhaar card? I mean, how does it work? UPI. So you just mentioned, so I'm just curious. UPI, is it like a
So they just created a digital layer and collaborated with a lot of banks and combined all their platforms so that that particular layer could be used. So it's not a very difficult technology, but making it mass adoption, how to get it adopted by a number of people, that has been a fantastic success story.
wow? And the number of transactions, can you just say that again?
Yeah,
The number?
it's more than 20 billion number of transactions, more than 20 billion.
More than 20 billion number of transactions. Fantastic use case.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tushar, for sharing that great
And they
insight.
took the inspiration from Kenya, which was a leader in this technology.
Okay, there you go. Telly, you got to say something?
I wanted to say something on that. I mean, that is where I talk about, the biggest opportunity is where we're dealing with cross-border settlement. And just yesterday, I saw an article where they're talking about U.S. banks are now, allowed to kind of use public blockchain as a settlement infrastructure layer. And this is key because at the end of the day, the same concept as the UPI, it's really just condensing it, simplifying it, to allow for faster payments with probably just something like an email address. If you could shoot, a username, an email, that is the way of the future, for sure, when it comes to transacting. So it's really a simplification, but it really is efficient and can foster a lot of faster transactions and payments.
Great. Thank you, Telly, for adding those insights to Tushar's. George, let's hear from you about some use cases, in the space. Thank you.
I think there's several things that are important. Spending a lot of time in GCC and some time in Africa as well. But primarily, let's look first at one of the most innovative areas, which is in Dubai, part of the UAE, where they have made 2 or 3 important decisions. The first one is to make blockchain a standard in all government operations and force all government entities to actually use blockchain within their operations to reduce the overall cost of digitalization. The second was the appointment of an artificial intelligence minister, which is probably the recognition that artificial intelligence is going to be an important measure in terms of driving the value and the extraction of the data. Because if you're going to have a smart city, a smart operation, a digital city, then artificial intelligence is going to be an important element, whether you're taking data from the metro transportation system. And thirdly was the importance of cybersecurity, where there's a CISO for Dubai, or a Chief Information Security Officer, Dr. Marwan, that actually is responsible for overseeing the overall security or cybersecurity of that entire infrastructure. From a use case, we have examples like, for example, UAE Pass, which enables us to now, with a single biometric, to log on to all the government applications and to be able to do things like payments. So you'll be able to pay your bills, electricity, your connectivity bills. You're able to now also have applications that enable you to have the Metro Pass directly inside your mobile that got recently launched in a combination between Huawei and RTA. So there's really a lot of ongoing innovation that is driven by the combination of these 3 technologies that we talked about. One is blockchain, the other one is artificial intelligence, and identity management. And I think the combination of those 3 together is driving a lot of innovation. The last element that I wanted to add is quite on a completely different scale. One of the things that, if you have been to Dubai in the last 4 weeks, you realize that it's a different place. And why is it a different place? Because now you see people from a region that you never saw there before. So today you have thousands of Israelis roaming the streets of Dubai, and there's an extremely amount of exchange between companies, between the Middle East and a region of the Middle East that before was isolated. So this brings a whole new startup consortiums that enables the activities and exploration of new opportunities. And one of those opportunities was the one that I was mentioning to you today, which enables us to use biometrics based on that are generated by user behavior when they use the keyboard or the screen. This particular technology was already done a small pilot with Samsung, but what it allows you to do is to have a whole new generation of identity management that simply was not there before, but it is a cooperation between various organizations and various governments and private entities to be able to introduce a whole new generation of products that was not there. But I think open borders world, even in the COVID-19 situation, enables us to achieve a success that was not there before.
Yeah, great, knowing about Dubai as a country. I mean, AI minister is one of the, unheard of. Actually, I didn't hear of that title. I have to be honest. But that's one of the best practice, Telly. You're right. Yes, it does make sense as well to have AI minister for the country. And when George said that artificial intelligence, blockchain, and identity management, three systems are coming together into one, makes sense for this topic and for any country, for any government to adopt this. And I totally agree, because Tushar, Telly, all of them shared about their insights about India, about Kenya as well. So yeah, Tushar. Okay, yeah, Tushar wanted to add something to this topic.
Yeah, I just happened to see a report by Capgemini, which released on I think only a week back. It was about smart stores, rebooting the retail store through in-store automation, and 79% Indians who participated in that, and 85% Chinese. They said that they would. Uh, they want to visit stores which have a heightened AI-based in-store retail experience as compared to a store which does not have that kind of experience. So, you talk about a guy going inside a pharmacy, his face getting recognized, his whole family tree coming up, his history of medicines which he has been taking and his family has been taking coming up, and then the alternatives which can be provided to that customer, and use of a robo to identify those medicines and bringing them to the counter, and the money getting processed using fintech and AI. So, we are talking about those kind of in-store experiences, and this is where facial recognition technology and other technologies which are safe to use because of blockchain can come in. And this particular research has is throwing out the fact that there is a huge market for these kind of products.
All right, great. I mean, very last addition about facial recognition technology use case. Thank you so much, Prashant, for sharing that. Amazing. I just came to know from our host, VCTV host, that we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and also our website. And we are getting a lot of good comments on our social media channels. So I just wanted to tell you that people are actually tuning in and listening to your insights as you're sharing them online. And we're getting very good comments. So thank you so much, all of you, for sharing that. And also, you can subscribe to our channels by clicking subscribe, as simple as that. Fantastic. I would like to now take some closing remarks from each of you on the topic. I would start with Gary. Gary, what's your closing remarks for the show today?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great time. So, I remember a long time there was an Indiana Jones movie, The Last Crusade. It said, make sure you use it wisely. So, with this facial recognition, I mean, we got to use it wisely and do the right thing. So, it's an exciting time. I love investing in those companies. I love to curate those companies and help them go global. People can reach me on LinkedIn, Gary Fowler on LinkedIn. Twitter, I have my show today, GST Presents, which is getting a lot of attention, and I've got best-selling authors on my show talking about digital transformation. So tune in. I love VCTV. Thanks, Sonny, for a great panel, and good seeing Jorge, Telly, Tushar, Amit, and yourself. It's a great day today. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a great day today, Gary, and thanks for making it even more great. George, your closing remarks for the show today.
Well, first, it's been a pleasure to be here. It's been a pleasure to exchange the integration of various technologies together and to share this with people from all over the world, from Africa, from India, from North America. And I do believe that one thing that COVID has done for us as people, it has allowed us to come together in a quite innovative way. So you can say that although COVID has been very bad for us and it's caused a lot of havoc in terms of people losing jobs, currencies going down, etc.
Yes.
At the same time, it has substantially accelerated the space at which we're doing digitalization. So that means e-commerce has benefit from it. Government has had to accelerate the pace of their digitalization. AI is being introduced, for example, to measure the effectiveness of COVID vaccines or to try different variations. And this combination of technologies and the acceleration in the usage of these technologies is being forced upon us by this difficult situation. So I think sometimes a difficult situation enables humans to be a bit more creative and to explore new ways of doing things. And I'll put also one small plug. We have a regular meeting in Dubai known as EcoX Dubai for the last 2 years, and we have this weekly, and it's free. So the people that are in Dubai, please do visit us at EcoX Dubai, which is a physical meeting in the epoch of COVID with the appropriate distancing measures in place.
Yes, sure. I miss Dubai. But thank you, George, for that closing remarks. I think in difficult situations as human beings, we've always been very creative to find a solution to tackle that difficult situation. And very rightly said by George and others in the panel. Thank you so much, Tushar. Your closing remarks for the show today.
So as I said, Sunny, I mean, I still remember Oppenheimer's words. These kind of technologies, they are uh, they are something, So they are something which the world has never not seen till now, and we are moving into a new realm altogether. And but the fact is that we have other technologies which make them safe to use. And I'm sure that and regarding VCTV, it's been, I think, 2 months since I started appearing, and it has just grown so much that I look forward to being on the show in the evening and seeing Gary right on the second block. So so it's just amazing to be on the show with you and others, and it's a great learning experience as well. I look forward to it all the time, and thank you so much for doing such a wonderful job each time.
Thank you, Tushar. I think Gary's going to be very happy or not. Maybe he's got a competitor, like it's a therapy session, as Gary says, and we are all like addicted. Okay, thank you, Tushar, for that. Kelly, your closing remarks for this session, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, just to say, I mean, I believe we have reached an inflection point in whatever era, right? This is what really truly is that digital revolution. And it, as George said, it provides opportunities, significant opportunities, whether it is around identity management, around cybersecurity, around digital identity. And within that, obviously, user experience becomes one of the big areas. So it does foster the development of new business models. So business model innovation is something startups can look at within the space. When you're looking at industry verticals, it cuts across everything we do, for whether it's reg tech and you're doing things around compliance, making compliance more user-friendly, or whether it's around smart cities, and making that connected, smart city and identity linking with that, being seamless. Whether it's around, I mean, there's just so many verticals. We talked about pharmaceuticals. It could be from the perspective of protecting, like George said, because we have a pandemic and we have other different type of disasters. I live in the Caribbean right now. Climate change is a big, big issue. I'm also from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and right now our volcano seems to be acting up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an effusive eruption right now. So, I mean, the risks that we are just living here means we have to now really redesign and harness new solutions to do that. And what is evident even in our conversation is it's not just about AI, it's not just about data, it's about connecting and integrating all the different technologies to provide new solutions, right?
Yeah.
So my takeaway from this is, if you're a startup, there are significant opportunities in the space, opportunities for more, and I think now more embedded solutions. And it's quite evident when you're embedding a solution, adding embedded finance is one of the things that just is a natural evolution for it to be transactional. If you're an investor, just look at the trends, look at the points of integration and connectedness. For me, that is where my interest lies. And that is where, for the long term, it's going to be sustainable when you're looking at infrastructure, looking at all these requisite technologies from the perspective of an infrastructure layer that others can build on.
Great.
Thank you. You can reach me on
Great
LinkedIn.
elaborative discussions, Telly, must say. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn primarily, and of course on VCTV.
VCTV. Fantastic.
And
Thank you.
Dan to the Blockchain Foundation.
Fantastic. Absolutely. And congratulations again. So this is the real definition of digital revolution, as Telly rightly mentioned. And we are just in very unique times and situation. Obviously, it's been a year now, but still. Thank you so much, all the speakers, for sharing your insights today. I just want to quickly introduce my future co-moderator. He's here. He's going to be co-moderating a session coming up soon. Amit Dapps. Amit, can you just quickly introduce yourself before we wrap up the session?
Thank you. Thank you, Sony, for introducing me. My name is Amit Das. I work here at LATOKEN.com, and great insights by all of the panels. I got to know about what are the current trends happening in all over the place, in Middle East, in Kenya, in India, and very good knowledge sharing session. And I'm looking forward for these upcoming sessions and co-moderating with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amit. Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you so much. Great startups, entrepreneurs, founders, please don't miss out on this opportunity to share the space with these fantastic people who are investors, right? You need investors. These are investors. So don't miss out the opportunity. You can always reach out to me and the VCTV team, and we would get you on board on VCTV. Again, investors, speakers, if you like to network with like-minded investors and speakers, you can always come and join us here and share your insights. Why not? Okay, so very special request from Tushar. Tushar, you wanted to add something today? Yes, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to say I am contactable on LinkedIn. That's Tushar Consul of Consultancy Ventures. And my website has my email ID as well.
Excellent, excellent. And people can also find out on VCTV besides that. Thank you, all of you. And thanks for your time. End of the session. Have a good day, good rest. And I'm going to be back tomorrow on another topic with another set of speakers. Till then,